Today I'm going to show you a thriller film called Nightcrawler. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The moment he saw a stringer in action, Lou Bloom knew that he wanted to build his own media empire. Ruthless, manipulative, and efficient, Lou turns the crime victims of LA into money-making spectacles to make it big in the cutthroat realm of night crawling. Late at night, Lou Bloom is breaking off a chain-link fence in a restricted construction area when a cop stops him. Lou puts on a smile for the officer and provides an ID upon his request. Maintaining a friendly atmosphere, Lou talks idly with the cop and eyes his wristwatch. Suddenly, Lou attacks him before leaving with a nice haul of chain links and a new watch. In a junkyard, Lou attempts negotiations as he sells the stolen goods. He talks strictly in corporate lingo, even bringing up the market value of his pieces, but the foreman doesn't budge. After being forced to accept the boss's price, Lou starts asking him for a job. He maintains the corporate talk in his pitch, using scripts and buzzwords that would make any HR recruiter swoon. But in the end, the boss says that he doesn't hire thieves and Lou leaves empty-handed. While driving, Lou notices cop cars in the area, so he pulls over to see what they're investigating. He's watching them rescue a woman trapped inside a burning car when a van of stringers shows up. Rushing out of the van, Joe Loader leads his cameraman to get close enough to film the wreckage and rescue. Lou observes them with a gleam of fascination on his face. When Loader finishes, Lou approaches to ask about the job. Though Loader says he's not getting compensated enough for it, Lou notices the advanced equipment in the van, which convinces him otherwise. He then asks if Loader is hiring, to which he received a colorful no. Lou maintains a polite smile and thanks Loader just as he is notified of another accident. The next morning, Lou grows even more interested in this freelance photojournalism business after seeing Loader's material make it to television. He steals a bike afterwards and sells it for store credit, which he uses to buy a camcorder and a police scanner. With his new equipment, Lou listens for incident reports as they occur while camped in his car. Each time he gets to a crime scene, he's always forced to leave by the cops there. Finally, he manages to get a graphic close-up shot of a carjacking victim before another cop tells him and a stringer from Ace Video to back off. Lou sells the footage to Channel 6 news station, where he meets news director Nina Romina. Though they're already getting the footage from Ace Video, Lou promises that his shot is much closer than theirs. Nina sees how graphic the video is, and just like that, she's sold. Nina pays Lou for it and tells him to get better gear. She then gives him a rundown of what her channel likes to air, which mostly revolves around urban crimes creeping into affluent suburbs along with bloody accidents. Some days pass and Lou managed to get himself a younger assistant named Rick. He interviews Rick under the pretense of needing an intern for his successful TV news business. With Rick expressing his reluctance towards doing unpaid work, Lou tells him he'll pay $30 a night. Strapped for cash, Rick agrees to the arrangement. The two spend all day listening for a story to film, and it isn't until night comes that they find one. Lou drives at a dangerously fast speed, freaking Rick out and making him give the wrong direction. By the time they arrived at the scene, it was too late. Though Lou is mad at Rick, he handles him in an eerily calm manner, maintaining the same corporate shtick the entire time. For their next crime scene, they arrive at the aftermath of a shooting incident in the suburbs. Lou is determined to not leave the place empty-handed, so he takes advantage of the victims being interviewed, using the opportunity to enter their home. Once inside, he tampers with the photos on the fridge, rearranging them to craft a more compelling narrative for his footage. Lou delivers the material over to Nina and she loves it. Assignment editor Frank, however, finds the footage unethical. Nina shoots Frank down harshly and proceeds with running the tape. Lou and Nina share a brief conversation where Lou tells her that while he hasn't received much formal education, he's a fast learner who spends all his time studying online. He adds that television news just may be something that he loves, and something that he's good at. After being left alone, Lou sits behind the news anchor's table. His smile is gone and he's left with a blank look on his face, as if pondering over his plans. Days, crimes, and accidents go by and Lou and Rick are on a roll. They're able to shoot a ton of breaking material, all with horrific headlines. Despite his increasing experiences, Lou continues to handle the job callously. While a man tries to talk to 911 about a car crash that led to severe injuries, Lou points the camera at his face and presses him about what happened. When the man tells him off, Lou goes on ahead to film the injured victim. Once again, he tampers with the crime scene, and this time, he moves the body to get a better angle. In spite of what he did, he is exhilarated by the results and shows no remorse for his actions, simply leaving when Loader and the cops had arrived. The next time Lou meets Nina, he pressures her to go on a date with him. Nina refuses him at first and firmly asserts that she wants to maintain a professional relationship. With a smile, Lou makes a thinly veiled threat about cutting off said relationship with her if she refuses, and this leaves Nina speechless. Loader approaches Lou on the street and invites him to run his second Nightcrawler van. He tries to win Lou over with the promise of doubling his sales and letting him use his equipment and connections. Lou refuses the offer, and when Loader insists, Lou tells him that he feels like grabbing him by his ears and screaming in his face that he's not interested. Nina agrees to go on a courtesy date with Lou, who tells her that it's his goal to own a news station. Lou stiffly flirts with her, and this only makes Nina uncomfortable, especially with his comments on how nice she smells and how there's a lot of information about her online. Eventually, Lou cuts to the chase and admits that he wants her to sleep with him. Though Nina strongly refuses, Lou threatens that he'll stop selling to her, which would single-handedly tank their ratings. He also insists that he doesn't want her just as someone to sleep with, but as a friend, too. When Nina tells him that friends don't pressure friends to sleep together, Lou refutes this by saying that a friend is a gift you give yourself. This makes it clear that Lou has no interest in connecting with others, and only views relationships as means to an end. Regardless, Nina looks completely resigned. Though things have been going well for Lou, he begins to encounter some problems. He and Rick are starting to argue with each other, with Rick asking him for a raise and Lou shooting him down. The two arrive to a plane crash scene, but they're too late. Loader and his team have already captured it. Loader mocks him and brags about the 5 fatally injured people they managed to shoot, while Lou is left with a weak stabbing story in Corona. Nina is furious by this, especially since her ratings are under strict review that week. Lou tries to show her his footage, but Nina yells at him, saying that she doesn't care about Corona and that he should give her what he promised he would, a story that no one can turn away from. With Loader's coverage front and center in Channel 2, a seething Lou shouts at his bathroom mirror before smashing it broken in a fit of rage. The next day, Lou sabotages Loader's Mayhem van, which leads to its crash later that night. Rick tells him not to film the incident since Loader's one of them, but Lou carries on under the guise of professionalism. He films Loader's injured and bleeding face as the paramedics take him away. For their next big story, Lou and Rick drive to an affluent house where a home invasion is taking place. The robbers are still inside, but Lou is undeterred in spite of the gunshots he just heard. He continues filming everything, even the plate number of the robbers' vehicle, as they drive away. With the crooks gone, Lou makes his way inside the home and he starts filming every dead body and blood trail he could find. He has no regard for the victims at all, even filming a bleeding, elderly man as he weakly grasps for breath. When Lou gives Nina the footage, she is impressed. It's exactly what their station needs, and she ignores Frank's ethical reservations, insisting on airing it. When it's time to negotiate for prices, Lou starts off with his usual tactic of giving an absurdly high number until they arrive at $15,000. Nina tries to negotiate for a lower price, prompting Lou to start making his other demands, like having his company, Video Production News, credited on air along with meeting the rest of her team. Lou is the one calling the shots now, and Nina has no other choice but to yield to his demands. Lou is introduced to the news anchors and he watches as the crew films the breaking story. To his satisfaction, Video Production News is appropriately credited by the anchors, just as he demanded. The following day, Lou's story airs and he receives a visit from a pair of investigators, Detective Frontieri and Detective Lieberman. They question him on what he did to procure the footage, and Lou lies, claiming that he only started filming when he was inside the house. He also lied about not seeing the intruders' faces and their vehicle before giving the detectives a copy of the video as they requested. With the investigators gone, Lou proceeds to take a screenshot of the robbers' faces. He then looks their plate numbers up so he can pursue them with Rick. Rick is unsure of this, saying that they should be calling the cops if Lou knows who the perps are. Lou assures him that they'll be calling them when the right time comes, and he pulls over to discuss Video Production News expansion with him. He promotes him to executive vice president and lets him pick what he wants his new pay to be. Rick meekly settles for $75 a night, and when he realizes that he could have chosen a higher number, they've already closed the deal. They stop when Lou spots the criminal's car, and this is when Lou tells Rick that there's a reward of $50,000 for their capture. He refuses to give Rick any of it as a bonus, and when Lou starts talking about following the wanted man around so they can get better footage, Rick demands for half the reward. He even threatens Lou to report this to the cops. Lou calmly relents, and though he doesn't like what Rick is doing, he agrees to his demands. Rick then tells him that he should start talking to others like they're human beings, and that the problem with him is that he doesn't understand people. When the robbers start moving, Lou tails their car until they stop at a restaurant. Lou phones the cops to give them the men's locations and descriptions, even saying that one of them is possibly armed. Once the call is over, he tells Rick to go down the street and film from there. Rick strongly refuses, and though Lou is speaking as professionally as he always does, he begins to threaten him. He asks Rick, what if his problem isn't that he doesn't understand people, but that he doesn't like them? Then, he asks what if he was obligated to physically hurt him. Knowing that he's in a dangerous position with his boss, Rick is forced to do as he says. When the cops arrive, Lou starts filming from his car while Rick films from down the street. More and more cops show up and a shootout ensues. One of the criminals manage to escape, and as soon as Rick gets in the car, Lou floors it to chase the man down. Lou doesn't care about the casualties at all, and he orders Rick to start filming. Of course, Rick is terrified by this, especially with the dangerous turns that Lou is making and how closely he's tailing them. A car suddenly crashes against the zipping police car, and ever wide-eyed Lou remains unflinching and unblinking. He doesn't listen to Rick's protests, even when the robber's car is ramming the cops. Both vehicles end up crashing, and without missing a beat, Lou steps out of his own with his camera in hand. He walks up to the robber's vehicle and calls out to Rick, telling him that the man is dead. At Lou's instruction, Rick goes to film the supposedly dead man, but as it turns out, he is still alive. He shoots Rick multiple times before stepping out of the car. The man comes face to face with Lou, but with the sirens blaring from a distance, he tries to escape only to be shot dead by the police. Lou walks on over to Rick as he lay dying on the ground to film him. When Rick accuses Lou of seeing that the man was still alive, Lou simply tells him that he can't jeopardize his company's success by retaining untrustworthy employees. He coldly adds that Rick used Lou's own bargaining power against him, and that he would have done it again. When Rick dies, Lou takes the camera from him, then takes his leave. As Lou makes his way to see Nina, he greets the news crew with a charming smile as if nothing happened. He even gets recognized by one of the news anchors. Nina is stunned to see the entire footage, and with the video stopped at Rick's dying body, she turns to face Lou, completely smitten and entranced by his work. While they're preparing to air the story, Detective Frontieri comes in to confiscate the tapes as evidence. Nina refuses, and the detective is directed to speak with Lou instead. Right before airing, Frank pulls Nina aside to tell her that the home invasion story was discovered to be a drug robbery. Nina cares very little for this new information, and she tells Frank to give it to the noon crew as it detracts from the story. Incredulous, Frank says that she's starting to sound like Lou, and Nina retorts that Lou is inspiring them to reach a little higher. Frontieri interrogates Lou, and she sees right through his fabricated story. She's able to pinpoint that Lou just sat on the information and bided his time so he can get a story to film. Lou responds that it would be an unprofessional thing for him to do, and Frontieri corrects him, saying that it would be murder. When the topic shifted to Rick and how unbothered Lou is about his death, he argues that he died doing what he loved, and he only filmed him dying because it was his job. Frontieri may know the truth, but ultimately, she can't prove it. Lou walks away scot-free. With Lou's continued success in the industry, video production news now comprises of himself and 3 interns. He gives them an introductory speech, then ends it by promising that he will never ask them to do anything that he wouldn't do himself. Getting inside their vans, the night crawlers venture off to the lamplit streets of Los Angeles, ready to capture the stories that no one can turn away from. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.